Back by popular demand, I am here with none other than the famous MAGA brother. The first time he's been back since the insurrection. We were chatting over the family chat group, and he told me he was mad as hell. We'll find out why. But first, Andrew, warm us up.
There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the gang gang. Drew gang gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew gang gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew gang gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the gang gang.
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds.
Peter MAGA Learn, welcome back, sir. You know, I got to tell you something. I'm getting in trouble.
Why?
For doing this stream because my wife has prepared dinner, and she's very pissed that the dinner will be cold and not ready for consumption the moment it comes off the stove. But I told her we have a crucial conversation to have because we love America. And you know, the Nerds for Humanity Nation, when I told them last night, like, hey, I might get my brother back on, they were fired up. They were like, oh, I can't wait to hear from Peter. So, you know, we already have 61 concurrents already on the stream, and I'm sure that'll keep going up. But go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was watching one of your chats the other day, or whatever. You had your own little, just by yourself. You had a lot of people.
Like Nerds React or something, probably.
Yeah. Why was that so popular? Well, I didn't really like that, but why was that so popular?
Well, I mean, I think I was reacting to either the Georgia call, or probably the Georgia call was the one that was most popular. I think it was popular because people were stunned at how the president had this call in January, 2 months after the election was done and dusted. And he was, you know, in my opinion, just kind of flailing around and treating it like a condo sales deal. And in my opinion, acted quite unpresidential and, you know, the word deplorable. So, but you know, you and I agreed to some ground rules, or you asked me to agree to some ground rules to get you back on.
Yes.
And you said, Tom, I don't want a heated debate with you.
Yes.
And I said, okay, well, I'll keep it civil, but I'm not going to be a yes man. If you just start saying like stuff that I disagree with, I'll politely disagree with you. But we're going to keep it. We're going to try and model how we hope Americans can find common ground. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. First time for everything, Pete.
Yeah, I think you reached out to me and said, look, that you wanted to understand how the Mogans were feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also commented that we're living in like two different Americas.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes.
Well, someone says I look tired. Well, it's 10 in the morning here.
Oh,
so yeah. So
it's late.
Just haven't really fully woken up. Wake up.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, I do feel like we have two Americas, because I think the conversation started when, after the insurrection, I was like, oh, by the way, they really got you by commenting on your appearance. That really your kryptonite. I don't care. See, if they say I look tired, I'd be like, that's a bad.
Actually, you look fresh right now. You look
good.
Like,
well, it's because of my background, my homies.
Yeah.
You see also, that guy?
I like your hair cut or something. You got to.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I was in the chat saying, "Hey, man, clearly, you would agree that finally the Mogans have crossed the line. That breaking in to the Capitol during a congressional certification of a presidential election is a step too far. And I was expecting you to say like, yeah, that's not a good look. But you said you're mad as hell. I was like, you're mad as hell? Mad as hell at the Moggins, or who are you mad at?
Yeah, I mean, like, actually, not just me. So I did like a soft polling of my fellow Magans throughout America that are my friends. And all of us are still very, number one, we believe the election was stolen. And we still want Trump to prevail and be inaugurated. Okay, so I know that might feel like an alternate universe to you guys, but that's like not one single Trump supporter said to me that they don't want him to have another 4 years as of today. Okay. Now, one of the things I asked you to play that little clip. Remember that little clip from the Maxine Walters and Pelosi and all
let's
those
see
people?
If I can find it.
You promised me, because I think there's a double standard in America, and what's happening right now is you're having this suppression of free speech. You know, Parlay is being taken off Google Play, being taken off iTunes. President Trump is being banned on Twitter. I mean, we're going to talk. I want to talk a little bit about that whole free speech. Obviously, the First Amendment guarantees that Congress will not stop free speech, but technically it doesn't prevent these private companies from banning Trump or other people. But the thing is this: I think it's a wake-up call for other conservatives, and I think that we're not just going to take it sitting down. We're pissed off, and so two things are going to happen. You're going to basically just ban us off of social media, and then you're just going to be talking to yourselves, and you're going to have like an underground movement of MAGA and somewhere else. You looking for the thing?
Yeah. I'm hitting an ad. Hold on. Okay, I think I found the Maxine Waters thing.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing, not just the Maxine Waters. There's Pelosi was talking about it, and they were inciting violence. I didn't see anything from what Trump said last week that told anyone to storm the Capitol and cause riot. There was nothing.
Okay. So I promised to show a little bit of this video that you sent me, which I'm guessing is it sounds like a edited video of clips of previous statements by Democrats.
Leading Democratic, leading Democrat luminaries. You're the people that you guys look up to.
Okay, let's see what they said.
Children, we can't protect anybody. If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store,
yeah, look at that. Look.
You get out and you create a crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome.
That's not the clip, Tom.
They're going to protest. They're going to.
This is the link you sent me.
Harass them until.
Where's the Pelosi thing?
That they're going to tell the president.
I don't know, man.
No,
this
I can't hang with you.
Not in DC. Not in the U.S. Not in DC. Not in the U.S.
Okay. So I don't want to just show another entire video in the entirety.
Right.
I want to respect the content creators who put that work in. But I think your argument is what? That you believe that the Democratic leadership has advocated for violence in the past. Is that your point?
I mean, I think Pelosi made the comment in a press conference last year. She's like, "Oh, I'm surprised there's not more riots in the street." And then Kamala Harris, was also, pushing for protests and violence.
Mm-hmm. So my view on these things, whenever I talk to Trump supporters and they make these arguments, is, this is kind of classic whataboutism, which is to say, hey, my side is being accused of doing something wrong. And rather than take responsibility, my job will be to find an instance when your side did the same thing. And here's the question I have for you, Pete, is if you play that game out and both sides do that, then there's no longer any standards, because there's always going to be a similar crime or infraction or pattern of behavior from the other side. And at some point, shouldn't we just do the right thing?
So I think for the last 4 years in general, the violence, has been mainly from the left side, from the Antifa, the BLM movements, where they're burning down streets, buildings. And, didn't like one of your people said that they should firebomb ICE building, and they did that, I think what happened last Wednesday was nothing like what happened like in the last 4 years with the Democrat side. And I'm not even convinced that it was led by MAGA people. I mean, there's rumors circulating around that it might have been Antifa. Now, having said that, I'm not really mad about what happened in Capitol Hill. Yeah. So like, I feel like
which is it that the event was organized by Antifa, or that the people doing this were patriots? You can't argue both at the same time.
It could be both. Antifa.
But either way, you feel like you win the argument.
Well, no, there's like some talk that Antifa infiltrated that MAGA march. Okay, and there's also talk that the police line was only one line of police, very thin, like not enough policemen, and that it was like very, very different from previous protests, say in 2013, when they had like multiple rows of police and much bigger police with bigger stature. So like the police that was around the Capitol was like made up of smaller police, also like some women that were not so big stature. And there's some thought that maybe like the police had actually requested for more police around there. And like, think about it. It was a big march. It was occupying so many streets all around Washington, D.C. So the question is, why wasn't there more Capitol Police out there to support? And like, didn't they request that from Pelosi? And then the Pelosi said no. I mean, that's what I heard. And so I think the fault lies is basically maybe they allowed it to happen. And Antifa had infiltrated this, and there's a weak police line. And then, basically they were pushing against the police, pushing the Magans against the police. And then, the Magans, just got upset. And I think it was a lot of anger because Pence double-crossed us.
So you saying that the Magans were not participating, that they were pushed into the police? Because it seemed like there's a lot of they all dress up like pro-Trump stuff. They're wearing pro-Trump clothing. They have Trump flags. They marched from the Trump speech. They're all like secret BLM Antifa people?
No, not all. All you need, is like agitators. I mean, like I don't know if you've been in any fights or anything like that, but you can imagine like some high school brawl or something like that.
I'm more of a math guy than a fighter.
Yeah, but it just takes one or two hotheads to start a fight, when you have a lot of people, right? You don't have to have like every single one of those people wanting to break into the Capitol. You just have to have a small group that creates a problem, opens up the line, and then, basically maybe get the police to hit against the Magans, or maybe police hit against Antifa that's dressed like the Magans, and then people get pissed off.
Okay. So now how you make these statements?
No. I make these statements because Antifa is actually a very well-run organization, and they've been doing this type of stuff for the last few years. So it doesn't surprise me if these people were able to, in the past, bring in like ice bombs, like water bottles filled with ice, that they're very prepared.
Okay, but is there any evidence of that?
I don't have any evidence. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
Then how do you know that
it wouldn't surprise me? But I'm just gonna say that even if it was all Magans, which I doubt that was all Magans, I think it's Antifa, BLM mixed in there. That I'm not really pissed off about it. I don't see what the whole problem is, because I think what's happened the last 4 years is that conservatives have kept their mouth quiet, and it's gotten us nowhere. We've been really, really marginalized. And the election, what it showed me is that, Trump increased the votes from the previous 4 years, which was surprising to me because I thought, people might just stay home, would be apathetic because, people might know that we would beat Biden no matter what. So the fact that we actually increased our vote count was, really good. But if you look at when I look at it, you guys dominate the free press, the so-called free press.
Mm-hmm.
Over 95% of all the journalists donate money to the Democrat cause. Same thing for the deep state within law enforcement, within the Justice Department, and all that, donating primarily to the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you guys also control the schools. Most professors are very left-leaning. Hollywood and entertainment is left-leaning. You guys, but it's not like the Republicans or the conservatives are 25%. It's not like, oh, we got 25 million votes and you guys got whatever, 70 million votes, whatever. We got 75 million votes. So we're like half the country, like you say, 2 Americas.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are controlling 95% of everything.
But wait a minute, hasn't the Mogans controlled the White House and the Senate?
No, I'm talking about the internet, big tech. You guys, okay, let's go through. You guys are controlling the universities.
What do you mean controlling?
Yeah.
You mean that people who have college degrees tend to be Democrats? Why is that the Democrats' fault?
Most college professors are Democrats or left-leaning. I don't know why that's the case, okay, but that has a huge bias, okay? Number one. Okay. And this is a lot different than 50 years ago, all right? And number two, most of the media, the so-called, that's why no one trusts the media. I used to watch CNN. There was a time when CNN was actually like providing news and unbiased coverage, but now it's just like a Democrat talking point. There's no point to even watch CNN. So
Fox News is the #1 news channel in America.
Yeah. So what's your point there?
So the Republican biased news channel is the top provider of information to voters.
That news channel came about because we felt, they identified a market that basically CNN and mainstream media was not covering the Republican side. It was basically, biased towards the left. I'm just showing to you. And that's just Fox News. Fox News is
I hear you.
One.
It is, but in terms of, what I don't understand is this kind of like combination of the need to project great strength, but also this bit of victimhood. Like, oh, woe is us. Like, you had the White House, you had the Senate, you had the #1 source of news in the whole country. You beat a dynasty in 2016. Like, what more do you want? You had you had everything. And
we also had we if you remember, like post-election in 2016, the media were crying on TV. The media, which is supposed to be unbiased, news channels were crying on TV. You had colleges around the country, having safe rooms, for the election. Come on, what kind of bias is that?
What's the difference? There's a difference between people having an opinion. Like, if people in college want to have a safe room, whatever, I don't even know what that means, but that's whatever. It's a free country. They can do whatever the hell they want. And if you make it sound like every day people were bawling on TV. I was watching some pretty sad faces on Fox and Friends the day after, and sad faces on Fox live coverage.
No, I watched the Fox the day after this election, and it was a lot more cheerful and less bitter than the 2016 thing.
Okay.
But hey, Tom.
Here's my question. Like, why is this so important to you? Like, why is this sort of victimhood such a big part of the MAGA narrative? Like, why are you so fixated on like, oh, you guys were crying when my president won, and why so much bitterness?
No, it's not bitterness. I'm just trying to explain to you your question on why we have two Americas, and I don't think the situation is going to improve. Okay, so if you want to know
So your answer is because people were disappointed when Trump won. I mean, you want to talk about
no,
being
not
disappointed.
I'm talking about structural problems in our country, which is we
Oh,
got no free press, we got no unbiased colleges, and media and entertainment is also biased.
how do
And
you solve that? Like,
I don't know how to solve it, Tom.
colleges have a right to hire who they want, right?
But Tom, you got half the country that hates your president-elect, so-called president-elect, okay? Half the country. So how are you going to fix that?
I think the way to fix it,
like we vehemently do not like your ticket. Like I just want to just say that. Okay.
I got you.
Right.
You asked me a question. How do we fix it? I would say the way to fix it is to focus on problems and solutions, and not focus on, oh, my side was treated unfairly or your side was treated unfairly. Like, who gives a crap, man? We have a problem. We have a global pandemic. We have climate change. We have all kinds of issues with healthcare access. We have income inequality. We have fraying race relations. Like, why aren't we talking about, hey, how do we solve these problems? Why are you so focused on the fact that people cried when Trump was elected? Like, who cares, dude?
I'm focusing on what's going to happen. Like, are we going to I don't think we had free, fair elections. I believe there was election fraud. I believe, so, and it's not just me. Okay.
Why do you believe that? Why? But you guys had an opportunity to present evidence in 57 court cases, and you didn't win any.
I don't think the evidence was ever heard, Tom.
What do you mean? Of course it was heard. You presented them in documents.
Those cases, most of those cases were thrown out because of procedural issues.
Okay, so
technical issues, yeah.
All right,
I mean, what I would have preferred that the Ted Cruz commission.
Wait a minute.
Which we pushed for. Why didn't we have that?
What would be an example of where you say there was
Supreme Court didn't look at the
What about what Attorney General Barr said? There's no evidence. Do you not believe him? I mean, he's not some pinko San Francisco elite.
Did he look at all the evidence? Did he look at all that?
Yeah, that the Department of Justice looked in, and there was no evidence of massive fraud that would have changed the outcome of the election. The Republican Secretary of State of Georgia went point by point on each of the president's assertions and said, this is not true. Like when the president said, oh, people ran the ballots through 3 times. Remember? He said that. Your president said that. And then you remember what the Secretary of State said? He said, we did a hand recount and came up with the same number. So the only way you would have the same number is if the humans counted it 3 times.
Yeah, Tom.
So like point by point, they went through all of these things.
Here's the thing, Tom. Here's the thing. You could go point by point. Unfortunately, your audience is not that big in terms of like the whole country, right? So
come on, don't insult the nerds like that.
No, I'm not saying you're not going to be able to convince the 75 million people that voted for Trump through your arguments today. So let's just try to stick to the point. How you can understand our side rather than you trying to convince us.
Well, what I'm saying is, you said to me, you said the words, I believe the election was stolen.
Yeah.
And I was trying to present you with information.
Let's just say you're able to convince me on this 30-minute phone call that I don't believe the election is stolen. That's just one MAGAN. Okay. That's not the point. Okay. I want you to understand that the MAGANs are very upset. And I think that taking away Trump's Twitter is like the final freaking straw.
Taking away Trump's Twitter? No, Trump took away his own Twitter by violating their terms of service.
I don't think he did anything wrong.
Well,
what did he do? How did he incite violence? How did he incite violence on that day?
Hold up.
Yeah.
You before on this show.
Yeah.
in this very same format, said to me that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the radical left are socialists and they're communists. And now you're telling me that you want to dictate to a private corporation how it should conduct its business?
Okay, so here's the thing. You're saying that, big government should not be interfering with Twitter's and Facebook and Instagram, whatever. Here's the thing. The reality is that big government is pushing Twitter. I'm sure that there were back channels and also overtly by the Democrats to get Trump banned from Twitter. And when that First Amendment was created, when was it created? 1776. There was no internet. There was no social media. Basically, there was free press, people printing newspapers in their little towns and cities. And then there would be a public square where people might post up notices. Okay, that was freedom of speech. That was what the founding fathers envisioned, freedom of speech. They didn't envision a situation where you and I could be talking to the whole world right now and where Trump could be tweeting out to his millions and millions of followers. So if you take away someone's Twitter, you're effectively just relegating them to like posting stuff in the town square and whatever local newspapers, and actually the local newspapers are all left-leaning anyway. So I think it leads to the fact that right now Twitter
is a monopoly. So you're saying that Twitter is now obligated to give every political party equal exposure on their platform, and that they can't decide what the rules of their terms of service and community guidelines are?
I'm saying,
like, that sounds like the definition of big government.
I don't know how you're going to solve this, Tom, because right now, like with this Trump Twitter ban, also I think Rush Limbaugh also got banned from social media. Alex Jones a few years ago. And when Alex Jones got banned, most people didn't really care too much about it, but actually, social media has been banning not just conservative voices, but anything they don't like. But they've been allowing the BLM and Antifa to go on. So, I mean, like, we're not like, what's going to happen? And we're going to create our own, Fox News, a social network, which is Parler, but Parler is being taken down because it's not available on any of the app stores, and Amazon Web Services is going to discontinue providing web hosting for them. But I think eventually there will be emerging another social network and social media that will be leaning towards the right side. And then so instead of having Twitter where the left and the right can talk together, you're going to have Twitter, which is going to be completely left wing, and then you're going to have, say, Parler or whatever, another app which is going to be completely right wing, and you're going to have like two Americas.
What
because we're not going to disappear. We're not going to disappear.
No, of course not. What I'm trying to reconcile is that this is the group that was screaming at the top of their lungs about capitalism and freedom and free markets. And now you're mad because a company decided to implement its community guidelines that were published for everybody to see. Okay, and so first, incite violence on Twitter.
I don't think Trump incited violence. I heard his speech, and I even sent you an excerpt of his speech on that day. He said, look, let's do peaceful. We'll march to the Capitol, support the senators and stuff. He never said, hey, storm the building, break windows. He didn't say that. Not like Maxine Walters and Pelosi and Kamala Harris.
Told people to storm a building?
They were saying harass people. I mean, unfortunately, that clip that I sent you, I sent you a different clip, Tom.
That is literally the link you sent me. Man. It says, Tom, wake up! You're so brainwashed. And then you had this link to Maxine.
Is it from Parler? From Parler?
No, dude, it's not from
Parler. Oh no, that was that LinkedIn one. That you got to go previous one. There's
another one.
Yeah, from a few days ago that you promised. See, this is we screwed up. That Maxine Walters one was referring to like how recently, like some stupid Democrat got accosted at the airport.
Oh, wait a minute. It's on a different one. Okay, so you DM me the one right before the Breitbart link that you sent me.
Whatever. There's a parlay link. Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Please,
parlay video.parlay.com refused to connect.
Yeah,
I think Parlay's not up anymore, dude.
Exactly. There you go. There you go, America. Welcome to the end of free speech.
What?
We got no more First Amendment now.
Wait a minute. First Amendment does not mean you can go to any private company and say, put my poison up there.
You guys have just shut down Parlay. We have no more.
Wait, hold on. I didn't shut down anything.
We have no more free speech.
You do have free speech. Go talk in the square. Wherever you want.
It's useless. That square is useless now.
Go to Breitbart.com, Newsmax, OAN, Fox News, wherever you want, man.
Let me tell you what's happening, Tom. Okay, and I'm glad you got me really fired up. We have now no First Amendment rights, the end of free speech, and we now have taxation without representation. And you know what that means?
Wait a minute. Before you move on to taxation and pull out your tri-tip hat, like, what do you mean you no longer have First Amendment rights? Let's look here and be very specific about the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech of press or the right of people to assemble, petition for the redress of grievances. It does not say Congress shall guarantee any voice be heard on private platforms.
Okay, look.
Right? Like, even if you go take your technology argument,
I have a very good argument.
They had a very good argument back in the day. They had newspapers.
I have a very good argument.
Okay, hold on. Let me finish, and you'll hear a very good argument.
Yeah.
They had newspapers back in the day. The First Amendment didn't say, oh, everybody gets on the cover of the Boston Herald. It doesn't say that every political candidate gets to have the same amount of space to write whatever they want on the New York Times. Like, free speech is that the government should not restrict you from saying what you want to say. It's not that private companies are forced to have everybody's voice equally published.
Okay, so here's my take on it right now. The social media is like a utility. For example, you have power coming into your house. I believe that if the power company cut off your power or didn't want to service you for whatever reason because of your political views, the government would step in. Like, they can't, even though it's a private company, it is a monopoly. It's a utility. So they're not able to restrict your access. So now social media has become a way for us to talk.
Wait a minute.
Become a utility.
That is nationalization. That is the definition of big government controlling private industry. You are the party of freedom of America. You were the one that told me about the dangers of Red China. And now you want the government to control Twitter?
Here's what I want. I want a solution that puts Donald Trump back on Twitter.
No, he needed to follow the terms of service.
He needs to be back on Twitter. He needs to be back on Twitter.
Well, you could say what you want. You don't run Twitter, bro. You go, dude, how about this? I need to be on the front page of Twitter. Nerds for Yang needs to be on the front page of Twitter 24 hours a day. You know what? Jack Dorsey doesn't give a shit about Nerds for Yang. Sorry, Nerds for Humanity. He doesn't give a shit about Nerds for Humanity, and that's fine. Jack Dorsey can do whatever the hell he wants. It's America. What is it? Otherwise, it's literally state-run media. No? So
look, we're not asking. I don't know the solution. I'm not a representative. I'm not a politician, but I'm telling you that right now, that people that are pro-Trump, we're damn pissed off with this. It's the final straw. We had the election stolen from us. Okay.
You keep saying that.
We feel that we had the election stolen from us, and we see that basically mainstream media is against us. And we can see now that big tech is against us. Trump did nothing wrong. He should not have been banned on Twitter. All right. And I'm telling you what the feeling is right now is we are fucking pissed.
Wait a minute, dude. You want to talk to me about feelings?
Yeah, we're pissed.
I thought that you
Yeah, what?
4 years ago used to tell me, oh, look at these crying tears. I have a cup to drink your tears, your liberal tears, you snowflakes. Meh, 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 meh. And now you're telling me that you feel mistreated?
You asked me to come on this show because there's two Americas. I'm telling you that this rift is not going to get smaller. This rift is going to get bigger. Unless you guys open up the free press, open up the colleges, and open up big tech and social media. You're going to have two bigger Americas. And the situation is going to get worse.
Well, Wright agrees with you. He's saying that social media sites should be treated as public utilities. They're basically monopolies who control speech.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, I have to disagree. First of all, Wright, thank you for the super chat. But
Wright, thank you for the super chat.
Okay, thank you. But I will, you know, as a former Republican and a partial libertarian, I would be very uncomfortable with the government dictating rules to private companies on what they should do. I just feel like it starts a very slippery slope.
You know, what I have an idea, and I heard this idea, it's like, okay, say for something like medicines, right? Like drugs, right? They hold a patent for like 7 years. I don't know what is a patent for these drugs. And then they go off label where they can go, you know, there could be generic versions. Mm-hmm. I think that Twitter is such a monopoly right now. It's worse than having like, you know, a monopoly on a drug. So either it completely needs to be opened up or the source code needs to be released, and then basically other people can come up with generic versions of Twitter. But I don't know what the solution is. But this current situation is going to exacerbate your two Americas problem.
So if he wanted to get coverage, he could walk out in front of the White House in the Rose Garden and say, you know, I'm having a press conference and I want to make a statement. And honestly, he would get coverage up the wazoo.
Well, no, that's him as the president. And also that sends a dangerous precedent for let's just say I don't have a Twitter account, but let's just say they banned me. Right. I could, there's no press going to cover me. So I think it's setting a very dangerous precedent, not just for Trump, but for any American, any person.
Well, but you could have a Twitter account and nobody really follows you or sees what you say. Like the Twitter's not obligated to give each of us an audience. Like,
yeah, but he had millions of people, and so like your reality is that going out and speaking on the street is not going to give you as much coverage as on Twitter. We all know that. I mean, it's just freaking reality right now.
Well, this man has no problem getting coverage. I mean, honestly, if you're worried about Trump's voice, he got elected because of all of the free coverage that, like, you hate CNN and MSNBC. They covered him left and right, even when he was like 5th in the primaries. They couldn't stop themselves. And that's part of the reason why he was able to beat Hillary, even though he had less money, is because he got all this free media coverage. Media coverage has never been a problem for him. But, you know, at the end of the day, I personally support free corporations running their own businesses.
Okay, so anyhow, like if this situation is going to continue, and basically there's been a purge on big tech of anything that's conservative. It could be even like conservative in terms of the dating and social scene. Okay.
But don't you think if companies have terms of service and users violate them, that the company has a right to remove that account?
How did Trump violate Twitter's terms of service on last Wednesday or Thursday? What did he do?
Oh, I think they would say that he has encouraged violence and glorified it. How? And they could decide. I mean, at the end of the day,
He didn't. Even like
Wait a
right
minute.
after.
By claiming as president of the United States to his 100 million followers that the election, he would use words like the election was stolen. He would use words like this is rigged. What do you think that does to people? It gets them fired up, and they're going to feel like, well, if we storm the Capitol, we're patriots.
Hey, Hillary Clinton told Biden last year that if he lost the election, to never concede.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
never concede. Wait, never concede is different.
So we're not conceding. Trump is not.
There's never conceding and being silent, and then there's constantly promoting clearly false narratives that
it's freedom of speech. I could say the earth is flat. I could say the earth is flat.
Yeah, you could say the earth is flat, but you can't scream fire in a crowded theater. Like, there are limits to freedom of speech. You cannot libel people. Like, there are guidelines to freedom of speech is not a 100% free for all. Like, you have to be responsible.
There was no incitement of violence by Trump. So Trump honestly believes that the election was rigged and stolen and fraud. And that's all he's saying. He's not saying, hey, there's election and fraud and then just go storm the Capitol. He never said that. So I think that Twitter really very upsetting.
So you're the only thing that would convince you that he incited violence was if he said, hey, everybody, walk into that Capitol, kick in the door, chant, where is Pence, look for Pelosi's office. Like, did he literally, like, and then what, sign it in triplicate? Like, what?
Can you try that parlay link one more time, that video link? I want to see that Pelosi and Kamala Harris, they were all trying. They said 100% worse than what Trump supposedly said last week.
Okay,
please.
Here we go. Hold on. Let me share the screen. I will show you that I'm taking your parlay link.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to hit enter.
What the hell?
Parlay might be downtown, dude.
Can you WhatsApp me the link again? Because I switched phones and all that. So send me that parlay link in my WhatsApp, please. I want to check it.
What? Why do you check? I just checked.
Oh, I don't believe you, dude. I can't trust you.
You think I purposely made the parlay link not work?
I don't know what you did, man. Freak, what happened to parlay? So sad.
Well, maybe you need to send some of the Mogans to more computer science classes, and they can build their own tech stack.
Well, anyhow, do you want to continue the conversation, or we're pretty much towards the end? I mean, I don't know what to do.
How about this? Can you take some audience questions?
Go ahead.
All right, guys, if you are in the audience and you want to ask Peter a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I will ask. Oh, wait, we have a hold on a second. Roberto is making. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Roberto. He said, at any job, you can be fired for your speech. At school, you can be suspended. Any bar or club, you would know clubs, can kick you out for disrupting other patrons. First Amendment applies to government compelling resources of companies is called communism. I'm guessing you don't agree with that.
Wow, Roberto gave you $24.
Well, 25. 24.
Wow.
Thank you, Roberto.
Very generous of him.
Well, the Nerds members realize that all this money goes to promoting the channel so that we can get more audiences. I know you think the Nerds audience is very small, but we are loyal and committed to humanity.
I didn't mean any disrespect.
I know.
Well, this is actually, he highlights a problem that we have, is that nowadays there's this cancel culture where basically if you're viewed as a conservative and if you're doing protesting, then you can be fired for your job. And that's what's happening across this nation in the last few days and in the last few months. But if you're BLM or Antifa, you get promoted. So, I mean, if you look at the so-called warlord, if you Google the warlord of Chaz in Seattle, he was given an $83,000 grant by the city of Seattle. Now, that was actually pre-Chaz days. But that's this whole situation is that If you're a liberal, if you're left leaning, you're going to get money from the government. Would you be open to supporting Yang in the future if he ran as a Republican? I don't believe in UBI. I mean, so I don't know. What do you want me to say?
You don't believe in UBI. What's your biggest concern?
It's basically communism. It's redistribution of wealth. I mean, I mean, how else do you want to say it, man? It's like basically, taking from the rich and giving to the poor.
Taking over private companies and telling them what to do.
Look, I think that we need freedom of speech, and it goes beyond what people imagined in 1776, where, that you can just speak on the public square. I mean, healthcare that you guys are all pushing for is like 1,000,000 times better than what they had in 1776. We have public education right now, which I don't think that they had in 1776. You guys are pushing for
the world
free colleges.
Has changed a lot.
The world has changed.
The world has changed. Yeah, I have made that argument to you about the Second Amendment, but then you're like, no. That's immutable.
I don't want to talk about my guns.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine. Here's a question for you. Do you believe Trump's lies? No proof at all there was cheating. The cheating narrative comes from false information sites. So you said you do believe that the election was stolen. And you don't buy my argument that if it were that courts, one of the 57 cases would have been won, that Bill Barr would have said there was fraud, or that Raffensperger, another Republican, would have said there was fraud. So why are you so sure?
Okay, so I think this question is very long, and we don't have time to go over. And if you look at our previous talks, we did have a long discussions on the whole points, right? We talked about the different election stuff, right? But to answer kind of succinctly why I believe so is that there was huge enthusiasm for all the Trump rallies. I personally went to a Trump rally 2019, not 2020. And you looked at basically Sleepy Joe didn't have much rallies. And you look at that elections in America. Okay.
Elect Biden.
Okay. I don't want to say President-elect Trump had more votes in 2020 than Vice President Biden. To answer to the question is, look, we feel, us Magans feel, that we have huge support for Trump. Trump has done great in many aspects. I'm not going to go into details. And that there is election fraud, that there is election fraud in American politics. I mean, like, even the media, like, look at all the wars that we've been going through. It's all proven to be like basically media influenced. Why did we go in Iraq? I mean, I don't want to diverge from the subject, but it's like, if I don't believe that there's free and fair elections in the U.S. at all, not just this election. Okay. Yeah.
But the last one was okay.
Probably there was fraud there too.
All right. This is an interesting one. Have you heard this? That, Mike Pence and his family were in the Capitol when the crowd broke in, and they were chanting like, "Where's Mike Pence?" and "Hang Mike Pence." And he was in danger. So I would have thought, if I were the president, I would have called Pence and been like, "Hey, man, I just want to check in. How are you doing? I can't believe like that happened. That's crazy. I'm so sorry." Does it bother you at all that the president and vice president haven't talked since this insurrection?
Well, they did talk, I think, today. But yeah, it did bother me that Pence double-crossed us and didn't do his constitutional duty as the president of the Senate to veto the decertify the votes. Yeah, that was actually the spark plug.
Wait a minute. Did you really expect the vice president to preside over 50 states presenting their certified results and say, "What? I don't agree"?
Well, that's what happened in 1776, right? In 1777.
I don't know.
And we had an electoral commission, made of 5, Supreme Court justices, 5 senators, and 5 congressmen. I think that's what we wanted. And, Pence basically threw us under a bus. And if we had the Electoral Commission for 10 days to sort out the evidence and then make it public, maybe you might have convinced half of the Moggins that, hey, it was a free and fair election. You guys screwed up, I believe, to be honest.
But the 3 recounts in Georgia were not sufficient.
No.
Okay. Jewel, thank you for the super chat. Wants to know, are we able to get together without beating each other up? What do you think?
No, I think we can. We did, right? And I would look forward. We should maybe do a little live stream of that one time.
The one dinner that was really hard for me was when we were in Florida. I guess it was in 2000. When was it? 2017, around Christmas. And that was with you and Mom, like saying Sleepy Joe and Snowflake and just so dismissive. But you lost, so
you're so happy. Hey,
you were hoping you would win because you were gonna rub my face in it. You know it.
We had a little bet. We had a little bet here.
We did have a little bet, and I seem to recall that some Peter Leung money is in my pocket because of the outcome. Well, now at least do we agree that President-elect Biden will be president?
No, we do not agree on that. And the bet still stands.
There's any chance that Trump would be president in February?
I think a lot of Moggins are hoping for the Insurrection Act. We were hoping that Pence and Congress would have prevailed with the Electoral Commission, but the backup plan is the Insurrection Act.
And is that when you run like some national election over with the military?
I don't know. We talked about that actually on the last video, right? Yeah.
So you're still thinking that's a possibility?
We're hoping that we are hoping that's a possibility.
Yeah. All right. Well, as I mentioned, Mrs. Nerd has had dinner ready for about 45 minutes ago.
Okay.
So, Peter, I want to thank you. And was this civil? I mean, it was fair. I mean, we got a little spicy in the middle, but I feel like it was a pretty civil conversation.
It was pretty civil. The thing is that I just don't see this problem of the two Americas getting solved. I feel that, we on the Republican MAGA side, we don't have the free press. We don't have the universities. We don't have most major city governments. We don't have social media and big tech, and now you've stolen the presidency, so we've got nothing.
Well, I wouldn't feel so bad. You have a lot going for you. You have the #1 news channel. You have almost all of the churches, all of the synagogues. You have the strong Israeli backing. You have the Russian backing. You have most of the Southeast. You have more square miles than the Democrats do. And the Democrats have their own issues. Like, you want to talk about woe is me. How the hell did the Democrats lose seats in the Congress with this buffoon in the White House? By the way, again, like, if this was a rigged election, they must have been brilliant to purposely lose congressional seats. Barely won the Senate. So I wouldn't necessarily think that the Democrats are kind of omnipotent. They're far from it.
Well, I don't think that you're going to have a reconciliation between the two Americas anytime soon. That's my prediction. So I'm going to be going online. I think the situation is going to get worse.
But it's not going to get violent.
I don't know.
Do you think MAGA protesters will show up at the inauguration?
Why not? We should.
And cause trouble, or as
just peaceful protesters. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Well,
like BLM.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened last week, though. That was not a peaceful protest. We can agree on that, surely. Can we end with agreeing that last week was not a peaceful protest? These clowns that made their way in.
But most Mogans aren't really upset about that. To be honest, I'm not upset about what happened.
But when some rioters break into a Target, you were pissed as all hell when they take the Nikes.
Yeah, I was pissed. Yeah.
But they can break into the Capitol building during congressional proceedings?
During a stolen election. Basically no taxation without representation. It's like the Boston Tea Party.
But you have representation. You have congressmen, you have senators that you can vote for them.
Well, they did not do the proper voting. They didn't,
All right.
We go into that. Yeah.
No, we won't go into that. Peter, thank you so much for coming back on. Thank you to the nerds for joining us for this conversation. I hope we modeled how you and I clearly don't agree on.
Yeah, I hope you don't get banned by YouTube for my comments. For inciting violence.
You've been on my channel talking about the Insurrection Act before. I think we're fine. But yeah, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll have to go on Parler. Oh, they don't exist. All right. Well, look, we'll get you back again after the inauguration.
The re-inauguration for Trump's second term.
Okay.
We'll have a smooth transition.
If he runs in 2024, will you support him?
Of course.
All right. Well, you're loyal. I'll give you that. With that, we're going to say goodbye, nerds.
Bye, nerds.
Peace out.